Everything all set up here. And waiting for other people to arrive. Wanted to make sure to get started right at 7 though for anybody joining. And hopefully our other two current members will be here soon. This is the last session for Reading Lovecraft. We are going to be switching that up soon, starting our next book, which we will talk about later in this session. We have Elisa.
Hello.
Hi. Karen coming?
Yeah, she'll be here momentarily.
Okay. I am.
I like that my hair is so long now, like that it just rests on either side of my neck and it looks long.
It does look very nice. And I meant to tell you at work today, but your bangs look very nice also.
Thank you. I actually cut them at work.
I wondered why I didn't notice it at the meeting this morning.
Yeah, because I cut them before break. I'm just like, I'm done.
How do you do that? And it just looks so perfect. I don't understand it.
I don't know. Talent.
We have a Karen.
I just like did it like this, and then that way I get the curve, and I went sneap. Although right now I got like an extra long one right here. Hold on.
I need.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi. 11 height.
There you go.
8.5.
I had one straggler. There we go.
Wait, no, switching it.
I just finished a previous art project and have it all over my hands.
That is exactly where it belongs. If you don't have your art all over your hands, were you really even doing it?
No.
With the exception being, digital art.
Yeah, you can't really get digital art all over your hands. Your wrist should be sore. There we go.
Don't test me for just how creatively I can manage to get messy.
I know, right?
All right.
Literally the outline of your little screen, and if you go over your screen, you get glitter on you. So now you have art.
Yep. Well, it's still on the screen. It's hard to get messy from, but then I print it out and there's ink.
Yes.
So I realized something I meant to mention last session as I was typing the title up for the last session, because I number our sessions, and it just seems so fitting that our last Lovecraft session is session 13.
Wow, really?
Wow.
That is very fitting, actually.
So me and Karen, because Karen doesn't have the actual book, I do. We decided that I was gonna read it to her over a voice chat system.
Right.
It's a voice chat system our entire family uses for gaming events. And while I was reading her this story this afternoon, we had a friend come on who started listening to me read the story.
That's fabulous.
Yes, it was great.
Mom got on and they wanted to play it they wanted to chat while playing the same game. So we
left their chat and went to a different one.
That's funny. So I am really excited to talk about this story, but first, what are you working on today?
So I'm excited because I want to kind of explain a little bit, whereas it's now almost September. I mailed in this weekend. You actually saw me do it Monday morning.
Yes,
the box of stuff. Yeah.
What'd you say, Karen?
I mailed mine Saturday.
Yeah. So these were the 3 bookmarks that I ended up making. And they
I love them.
Pretty tassels. I love this tassel the best, probably because it's the only one with pink in it. But I
I
like
love the different
colors.
shapes in them, though.
Yeah. I want 2 more designs for the end of the month, so I'm gonna have to work on that, but I have those. And then these are what my braided bracelets ended up looking like. I don't know if you guys got to see them.
Nice.
And I basically just tie them together with a pretty lovely card and some ribbon. And that's what I did. And it was really cool. So now I'm making more. And that's what I'm going to be working on today. So
I like it.
You may remember 2 weeks ago I was making fishtail bracelets. Well, now I'm doing the casing to the bracelets to make them the spirilla bracelets. So
Nice.
a
I like
fishtail
it.
inside.
Oh, that's so cool.
That's what's inside. That's what it looks like outside.
I love them. Well, I am working on designing and printing, and if I get far enough in it, I may have one of my children come running in to give me stuff from the printer. A thing for my children. They start school next week, and I know a lot of places not in New England have already started, and around here the public school started today. My boys are at a small private school that might be the last place in the country starting school here. But they start next week, and they have shelves in their bedroom. They're supposed to set up their outfits for each day, and like at the beginning of the week, so that in the mornings, on school mornings, they can just grab what they already know they're going to be wearing for each day. And so the theory was last year that my husband and I would help them set those up. The reality was that the shelves mostly got used for other things instead. So I'm trying to make this happen again, but they're, a year older, a little bit better at keeping track of their own things. And so, in theory, and so I am working on making something to keep track of the weather reports for the week, so that they can look at that and determine which clothes they should be setting out for themselves.
Ooh,
So
nice.
if I can actually stay on top of updating that constantly,
Update it Sunday night. You'll be all set.
that's the theory. The reality is ADHD. The best summary of living with ADHD that I ever saw was, I require schedules to function. I do not stick to schedules. That's about it. Okay, so while I'm working on that, actually before I'm working on that, because I need my hands for this, I pointed out during our last session, as we were talking about this upcoming book, I got something on this book. Yuck.
Last time, mine's missing its cover now.
Well, I was reading it in the bathtub, and I think I got soap on it. So it's clean. I pointed out that this was the only one of the stories that said that it was dedicated to somebody.
Yeah.
So when I actually started reading it, I was like, there's got to be a reason for that. Who is this person? And I was about to Google it, and then I was like, hey, I have notes in the back of my book. Let's see if it says there first. So let me read what comes before the actual footnotes as the description of the Haunter of the Dark. The genesis of this story is almost as celebrated as the story itself. Lovecraft wrote it on November 5th through 9th, 1935, almost immediately after hearing the shadow out of hearing of the nearly simultaneous selling of At the Mountains of Madness and The Shadow Out of Time to Astounding Stories, for a net total of $630 minus $35 agenting fee for the former tale. This last original story by Lovecraft was written almost on a whim. Robert Bloch had however Bloch is supposed to be pronounced, had written a story, The Shambler from the Stars, in the spring of 1935, in which a character, never named but clearly meant to be Lovecraft, is killed off. Lovecraft was taken with the story. That cracked me up was the next line. He was killed off. Lovecraft was taken with the story. And when it was published in Weird Tales, September 1935, a reader, B.M. Reynolds, praised it and wrote to the magazine's letter column with a suggestion. Contrary to previous criticism, Robert Bloch deserves plenty of praise for The Shambler from the Stars. Now, why doesn't Mr. Lovecraft return the compliment and dedicate a story to the author? Lovecraft took up the offer, and his story tells of one Robert Blake who ends up a glassy-eyed corpse staring out of his study window. But if Blake, a young writer of weird fiction from Milwaukee, is meant to be Bloch, the setting owes much to Lovecraft's own circumstances. The view down Providence's College Hill that Blake's study commands, looking out over the Italian district of Federal Hill, is nothing more than what Lovecraft saw at his own study at 66 College Street. The church that figures so prominently in the tale is also real, St. John's Catholic Church on Atwells Avenue, now destroyed. This church was in fact situated on a raised plot of ground as in the story, although there was, at least in recent years, no metal fence around it. It was in Lovecraft's day very much a going concern, being the principal Catholic church in the area. The description of the interior and belfry of the church is quite accurate. Lovecraft heard that the steeple had been destroyed by lightning in late June of 1935, as in earlier the year that he wrote this. He was not there at the time, being in Florida visiting R.H. Barlow. Instead of rebuilding the steeple, the church authorities decided merely to put a conical cap on the brick tower. This incident no doubt started Lovecraft's imagination working. Some of the surface details of the plot were taken directly from Hans Heinz Ewers' The Spider, which Lovecraft read in Dashiell Hammett's anthology Creeps by Night, which sounds exactly like something that I am never, ever, 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 ever going to be reading, just for the record. This story involves a man who becomes fascinated with a strange woman he sees through his window in a building across from his own, until finally he seems to lose a hold of his own personality. The entire story is told in the form of the man's diary, and at the end he writes, "My name, Richard Brachmont, oh, I can't get any farther." So, that is the rather amusing origin of why he wrote this story, which apparently, according to that, was his last original story. Excuse me, as I yawn like crazy. Hey, does one of you want to do a quick summary of it, or you want me to? A quick summary, a quick beginning summary before we actually go through it.
Yes, you can do it. I've done the last couple.
You have. All right. So let's see. Short overview. The Haunter of the Dark starts out with a sentence to let us know that Robert Blake was killed. Seems like a good place to begin the story. And then it goes back through what could be told or determined by his diaries and tells the story according to what they could figure out from reading that, which apparently was a lot of detail. I don't know, he was really detailed in his diary, I guess. And it involved being bored, staring out his window, and regularly spying on a church through his binoculars for some reason. And
field glasses.
His field glasses. And then he finally decided to go to that church, and it freaked out all the people who were around it. And one police officer warned him not to go in there, and everybody was freaking out when they saw that some random stranger was entering the church, and he decided going in was a good idea anyway. Woke up some ancient eldritch horror. It stalked him. It couldn't be in the light. Storm knocked out the lights and came for him.
Mm-hmm.
Short version. Okay, now for the actual discussing it.
So Karen and I were debating something. You have often brought up the fact that there's usually racism in H.P. Lovecraft story. Now, besides the overstating of Italian rituals, I didn't really see any racism.
No,
Did I miss it?
not significantly in this one, no. I mean, there are places like wording of things that very well could have been influenced by, if not racism, and over obsession with ethnicities, but nothing that was like blatant or.
Because I'm the kind of naive when it comes to that stuff, and I'm like, oh, that's racist. I'm like, oh, well, so you know.
Not that I noticed this time. I'm trying to remember. The only thing that caught me, and it wasn't really racist per se, and I think it kind of amused me more than anything else. After he went in the church, trying to find it. He noticed that. There it is. Blake noticed that the cobwebbed cross above the altar was not of the ordinary kind, but resembled the primordial Ankh or crux ansata of shadowy Egypt. And Ankhs are, I think, fairly common these days. And the fact that he describes it as primordial, or anything coming out of Egyptian civilization as primordial, just way vast misunderstanding of the timelines of history. But other than that, now. I told you, Lisa, that I kept misreading things today. Oh my gosh, I don't even know if I can find them now. It was because excuse me, at that point I was reading on my phone.
Right.
So trying to find the same thing in my book now. I'm not sure if I can, but I don't know. There were like 3 or 4. I'm so tired today. Like way more than is reasonable for the amount of sleep I got.
I've been all day.
Yeah, I have been. I cannot stop yawning. What?
I blame the humidity.
I always blame the heat and humidity first. They get first blame for anything. If there's heat or humidity, that gets blamed. Full agreement there. I told my husband that when I was talking to him. I was at the store after work and I called to see if there's anything he needed me to pick up. And I said something about being so tired today, and he was like, yeah, stop yawning. It's ridiculous. He was like, I've been so tired today too. I don't know why. And I was like, because our bodies were getting all geared up for cooler weather, and it suddenly decided to be summer again today. And he's like, but I haven't been outside. I was like, I don't care. I blame heat. If there is heat and humidity to blame, you know I'm gonna blame it. Like, it is the fault of the heat and humidity.
And air pressure affects inside just as much as outside.
What?
Air pressure can affect inside just as much as outside.
Yeah, we do have AC, so.
I do too, and I still roast in my house.
That's because you like it 50 degrees.
This
Me,
is
I
why
like it
Karen.
a balmy 73.
This is
Okay.
why Karen and I get along. Yeah.
I like it balmy 73. I worked in a nursing home for years. It's comfortable.
I like 68, but I am more comfortable for longer as it continues to drop than I am as it in any way rises above that.
I think like 62, 63 is a good temperature for me.
Yeah, she likes it cold.
I'll be walking around my house in a t-shirt in the winter, and my husband or like having visitors over, and they're like, how are you in a t-shirt? And I'm like, it's warm in here. And they're like, it's only 70. And like, you've been in and out, like you've been out in the cold. And I'm like, but it's 70 in here. I'm fine.
It's 70. I'm good.
I can't find any of the things now. But there were like 3 or 4 different things within the first like 2, maybe 3 paragraphs. So I really didn't get much further than that. That I was like, I just kept reading everything so thoroughly wrong.
I was trying to read it and I kept tripping over words. Ooh, I like that. I just kept tripping over my words.
I also was amused, I have to say. I've been listening to, Lisa's heard me mention this several times, but there's this podcast called Spirits that is focused on folklore and mythology. And it started like back in 2016, 2017, something like that. Excuse me. And I've only recently started listening to it, and I've been listening to it from the beginning and up through. I just got into 2020 and it just hurts my heart listening to people from before 2020 and then as they're entering 2020 and so hopeful for the future.
I love people.
I'm sorry. COVID-19 ruined so much, including the 2020 Portland Anime Convention, where the theme was going to be Dungeons and Dragons and D20s. And I never got to go because it got canceled.
Yeah, there were a few different cons around the country that were supposed to be happening in 2020 that had a D20, or some of them are calling it D2020. And yeah, I've heard a lot of, I think I've heard you mention that before, but I've also heard like other people in different parts of the country talk about like this one in this place or this one in that place that was canceled.
So this is how my 2020 went, because you didn't know me back then. I was really hopeful. I was enjoying my job. I was top of my game, doing awesome. February, my foot pain got severe. I was like, I'm still going to be good. The 8th, I got pulled over and got a ticket, by the way. The 8th of January, pulled over and got a ticket. But it's going to be a good year. I'm like, first ticket ever, but that's okay. Like, I'm good. And then April rolls around. I find out that my dog has a collapsing trachea. May rolls around. I find out I have arthritis. July rolls around. I got to quit my job. September rolls around. My boyfriend dumps me. I'm like, this is not a great year.
Yeah.
It's fair.
I had I really count it for our area starting in September of 2019, with the LEAP building exploding.
Yeah.
And then and like that spring, the previous spring in 2019, I have been at the movie theater. For anybody watching this, I'm going to explain the full circumstances. But I have been at the local movie theater to see Endgame, and literally the opening, the what's that called?
Trailers?
Yes, thank you. The trailers had just finished, and it was just starting the Marvel opening, and some of the movie theater employees came to like the outside like emergency exit door, and we're like, we need you guys to evacuate, there's a propane leak. And so for anybody watching this and not from our area, our local movie theater, there's like other buildings all around it, and there's this restaurant that's kind of at the top of a little grassy hill, and there was a big, like the whole big runs all of the gas for the ovens and whatever in that restaurant propane tank, something had rusted through and it let go and rolled into the parking lot. And it was, I can't remember the exact amount, but it was like thousands of gallons of propane that vented into the atmosphere. Praise God, nobody was hurt or and like nothing blew up or anything. But I was there to watch Endgame, and I was totally like taking pictures of the propane as I'm like going, please God, do not let anything blow up. But at the same time, taking pictures and going, I blame Thanos.
I blame Thanos.
But
There's actually a funny
it
story
might-
about Infinity War and Endgame when I was watching it.
what?
So I was working and I was sleeping in Lisa and Alan's living room because at the time I didn't have a place. Back in 2018, they were watching Infinity War, and I fell asleep and woke up like halfway through the movie. So I didn't watch Infinity or Endgame until way later.
So like looking back at how everything went down after that, in my brain, that propane leak is like the warning shots fired across all of our bows, because then it was propane, misinstalled propane tank or whatever it was, improperly inspected, that caused the elite building to blow up in our town. And like matchsticks left behind. It was not for, I say, I know you two know, but for the sake of anybody who doesn't.
The building was completely
several miles
decimated.
away, and we could feel it. We could feel it when we're several miles away.
It was the education day. All the local schools do field trips to the fair of our local fair. And I had taken the day. It wasn't just Fair Week, it was Education Day. All of these schools were supposed to be taking field trips to the fair. This is like what, a 1/10 of a mile maybe from the fairgrounds.
Yeah, just down the road. Like just down the road.
It's like around, like across the intersection that the fairgrounds are just off of, basically. And I had taken the day off and was at the boys' school with them because I was going to help chaperone their field trip. And if I had not done that, I would have been so stressed out, not knowing if they were at the fairgrounds at the time or not. Thankfully, they were not. It was right about 8 o'clock, I want to say it was like 7:57 or something like that. My pastor's daughter, his family, his kids and his wife, but his daughter always particularly helped with one of the demonstrations. But they did things with a homeschool co-op, demonstrating things at the education day at the fair, and they were running late for the direction that they would have been coming from, which is not far from you guys. And they're kind of on like the road that meets with the end of yours, I think. And coming from that direction, if they had been on time, they would have been passing the building right about at that moment. And they were running late, so they weren't at the fairgrounds yet. As far as I understand it, none of the schools had gotten to the fairgrounds yet, and they closed the fairgrounds down for the day. So that's in my brain where it all starts. And then, like, obviously, of course, we go into 2020 and pandemic and insanity and literally the craziest pivot we've ever done in Origin, where we created Pete created a design for a Lisa, you forgot to shut the alarm off, didn't you?
I did.
It's just our halfway marker.
Just a
Or
halfway.
we haven't even really talked about the story yet.
Well, didn't Origin create masks for a little bit?
Yeah, well, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, so Pete came up with this initial design for a gator style mask, and then they were talking about gator style not being good. We went through like 3 or 4 different mask designs, but that first weekend he came up with, well, he made a general, like, maybe I can make something like this prototype himself, and then like a how do we make this work in a line prototype that he made up that Monday morning at work while they were figuring out how to print and press them, because we were making them out of the Warwick, which is the same material that Lisa and I stitch, and they were figuring out how to like print the designs on it that they wanted and everything, and they were working out the details of how it was all going to work while we were a couple of us upstairs were rearranging some machines and creating a whole new line. So we literally went from prototype that morning to over 100 coming off the line by that afternoon.
My husband's work
Origin
actually
very
got
good at change.
Karen, I only heard half of that.
Then my husband's work got some of the Origin masks.
Yeah. Lisa, I actually heard you because for some reason when you start talking, the audio like prioritizes your voice over Karen's, but now I forgot what you said.
I said that Origin's very good at change. They're
Oh.
very good.
Usually. That was definitely the fastest. Like, talk about a pivot. And yeah, so we did that. I was still doing I was doing my master's at that point, and I had a class going, and we had from March until like halfway through March until I want to say it was probably almost to the end of May, that we were, or maybe the beginning of June, that we were working on masks, but it was particularly about a month and a half there. We were working 55-hour weeks. We were working 9 to 10-hour days, and then also working on Saturday, cranking out as many masks as we could, while I was also still doing school when I got home. And so that whole spring is really a big blur to me. And then
I don't
yeah.
remember much of 2020.
That's
we lost
right.
a lot of I lost a lot of coworkers, and then I was working in healthcare, and everyone who even had like a slight fever got sent home at the door. We had weekly COVID tests,
Right.
and we were overworked and not really well appreciated. And I just, in the November of 2020, I quit my job because I just couldn't handle it anymore.
Yep. And then let me see, that beginning of July, we lost a coworker to suicide. And then that November, my husband got sick, not with COVID, but it launched his now almost 2 years of chronic health issues that still we have partial diagnoses for and some solutions, but parts of it we still aren't 100% sure about. And then my household got COVID that January, the beginning of 2021. Oh, wait, I missed the spring of 2020 when the snow melted and a great big hole opened up in our front yard. It was like we looked out one morning, we were like, is that a big hole? Great big old sinkhole. It turns out there was an old well that hadn't been filled in properly, and old, like it was probably filled in at least 50 years ago, but not in a sustainably lasting way. And that year was the year that the snow melt made it all collapse into a sinkhole all of a sudden. And then I think it was 2021. I know I had COVID. I was out of work for 5 weeks, and then I was back for 3 weeks before I was out for another 2 with a tonsillectomy that had originally been scheduled for January and had to be rescheduled because of my having COVID. And then that spring, a huge, like a branch, but like almost half of the tree that was at the corner of our front yard fell. And again, praise God, twisted and fell over into the road and not into my children's bedroom like it could have done. And then that summer, my older son broke his finger. My younger son split his gums open on falling against the counter. The neighbor kid brought us a baby bird to rescue. Those three were all within the first week of the kids' summer vacation last year. And then my older son got attacked by the neighbor's dog. And then I had a pneumonia shot that got infected, a pneumonia booster shot, that the actual injection site got infected. And I had a sinus infection. My younger son had an infected splinter that we thought we had gotten the whole splinter out of his foot, and there was as much still left in there as what had come out.
Yeesh, big splinter.
Yeah. And then I got a concussion, and then Lisa and Karen started working at Origin, and I got to meet them. That was the best part of 2021. Yeah, and then there were like a few different significant deaths of people that I knew. And then Betty White died.
Not fair. Not
Right?
fair.
And did you guys hear that Olivia Newton-John passed away a few weeks ago?
Yep.
I just heard this yesterday. How did I miss that?
I don't
It's been
know.
a couple of weeks. It's been all over TikTok.
I know, it's been like almost a month. See, I'm not on TikTok that often, because if I am on TikTok that often, I will be on TikTok always.
Yep.
I have to deliberately mitigate it, or I will do nothing else. And then we all had COVID again, and then I went into long COVID and missed like most of the spring from work. And yeah, and then in May there were 3 more significant deaths.
I was July. I got let go in July.
What?
And then I got let go in July.
Yeah. So it's been a crazy couple years. And, maybe that's why I'm okay reading things like Lovecraft now, when I never used to like stuff like that. It's just more of life at this point. Eldritch horror? Meh.
So just
I
thinking
will.
of like,
I
So-
love this color. It's brown with orange.
Oh, I
I
like
was
it.
just thinking
Very
how if we
autumnal.
saw somebody sitting there with glass eyes who had been electrocuted with no source, I'd be like, man, that's okay. And then I got thinking, what if the gods are raining on the world? Because that's what the whole 2020 thing is. It's just the gods being pissed off.
Yeah. Although I still really like the meme that's like, it's like God says to Gabriel, like, oh, hey, did you finish adding the major events of of the 2020s, and Gabriel's like, yeah, wait, the 2020s, like a whole decade? And he's like, yeah, why? You didn't put them all in 1 year, did you? And as far as I can tell, he then was like, well, then let's just make all the rest of the years of the decade match.
You were like 2021, like 2020, like one something instead of the number.
I was gonna say, I did laugh very much when I got to this line that is right in this section right here, and yet I cannot find it.
So, real quick, just remind me, I keep forgetting this. So, my best friend and I went out drinking. This is before she became sober on New Year's Eve for 2020. We're in this place we've never been before, and everybody was wearing flapper dresses because everybody wanted to bring back the Roaring 20s.
I wanted to go to a 2020s party, a Roaring 20s party.
Wear cool dresses and feathers. I mean, that's what I wanted. And I kept seeing these memes at the beginning of the year of how, oh, you wanted a depression and you wanted an economic breakthrough. Like,
the depression didn't start until 29.
Still started in the 20s.
It's still coming.
Okay, but the rest of the 20s were roaring first, and in a good way. Well, mostly.
I think it's the reverse this year. We're gonna have
a plague in the 20s.
It's gonna be fine.
At least they're down there and Karen up there, and they're both talking. I found the part that I was amused by.
Okay.
The sooty Gothic windows were largely unbroken, though many of the stone mullions were missing. Blake wondered how the obscurely painted panes could have survived so well in view of the known habits of small boys the world over. And I, mother of 2 small boys, went, yep. And I understand they're talking about boys throwing rocks at things, but frankly, boys existing is...
I read that too, and I thought of the same thing. I'm like, yep.
My children?
No, just boys in general throwing rocks at things.
Because, I mean, thinking of my children specifically is not unwarranted if you've ever met them. Lovable, brilliant, adorable little soul suckers that they are.
The part that I'm gonna skip around here, the part that where he was talking about, where he kept dreaming that he was sleepwalking. He had a dream, but he'd woke up and he was in this trance-like state, climbing. Like, I instantly knew he was already in the steeple, like talking about a stone pillar. And I'm like, oh, and then the ladder. I'm like, he's in there.
I knew it was the steeple, but I thought that he was like dreaming sort of, but like seeing it through the eyes of the creature that was in there.
Ooh.
Until he was like, and then I woke up and ran, and then woke up on my floor, but still covered in, well, not mine. It's not
cobwebs and dust.
Yeah, it's not first person. Yeah. Anyway, that a combination of listening to the Spirits podcast that I started to mention and then derailed by talking about the 2020s so far, and of being in season 2 of Stranger Things still. It all merges in my brain. But one of the episodes, the reason I mentioned Spirits podcast earlier is because one of the episodes that I listened to today was weirdly about Mothman, and yet had so many things that this made me think of, with like the ways that people would tell stories and about it. It was like if Mothman, who by the lore some people think is there to warn people of danger, and others think is a harbinger of danger. if instead of that he was the danger and was the like complete and utter horror, then yeah, that's about what this kind of read like. And it doesn't seem like what it should read like, because this thing ain't nothing like a Mothman.
Well, he does have flapping of wings, but I honestly
Hey,
got like,
but he's like the void, flapping void.
right, but I also kind of imagine him with like tentacle legs, like blob tentacle legs, like not fully formed, but like nubs, like octopus nubs.
Like a flying Cthulhu head.
Yeah, like
Okay.
so like he's just pawing around, knocking things over with these little short hands while he's this big blob over it, like just like, you know, like he's the head and then like 8 little nubs. He's just like blindly, like, which is why everything's like all shattered and scattered, because he's just like trying to grab things with these black blob orbs. Although I also kind of imagine him with like almost like galaxy, so it's like starry and like slight purple shades in him, even though he's completely black. I don't know why. I saw the galaxy orb like that in the Color of Space too. But
Yeah,
I think it's because it's space. It's space. That's how I imagine space.
I have to play something for you.
Okay.
I'm going to attempt to play this. I will. How do I share screen? There we go. I'm like, I know it's here somewhere. Okay. So I'm going to play this. I don't know if the sound will transfer through the computer or not, but either way, I'll put the link in the description after. Can you hear it?
Yeah, I can't hear anything.
Man. Well, at any rate, like, where's my stop share button now? I will put the link in the description. But this is a recording of the sound from a black hole that NASA got. This was released, or this page was from August 24th. But it was it's ABC talking about how NASA has just released a sound from a black hole. So somewhere in the vicinity of August 24th. At any rate, it was recent. And they have this sound recorder from a black hole, and it is fascinating. My sister, it completely freaks out, and I'm just like, I love it. But it definitely
like
does
a whooshing sound, wouldn't it, as it sucks everything in?
Sort of, yes, ish. Except no. I mean, and that's the thing, like, I don't know how like real the sound is, considering that there's no sound in space per se. And I don't know, like, you know, what would be distorted or whatever, or what would be like, quote, true sound, which again, no sound in space, because nothing to move sound waves. So I don't know, but the whole thing is just like, I just realized I think it's speaking whale.
Well,
Somebody
you
can
well, shoot, what is that movie where they go to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? The dolphins go to space.
That's true. So long, and thanks for all the fish.
That's right.
I've never actually watched the movie. I've read the books, and I only know the song that they sing in the movie because of a friend in college who used to sing that to me frequently. So shout out to Anna.
See, I watched the really old one as well as the new one, and the ending is so vastly different.
I love the books. I love his sense of humor is very, very much my sense of humor. So I love so
Yeah,
much of it.
the old one's more like
Okay.
the book.
Okay, question. The skeleton that he finds in the corner in the steeple tower thing there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you think that it had like some like edges that looked like they had been like gooified or whatever, and like
Charred?
what?
Charred?
Yeah, well, there were a few different ways that he described it. Like it,
Dissolved at one point, he said.
yeah, like it looked like it was like dissolved at some parts and charred at other parts, and
I'm gonna blame the creature on that one.
Yeah, because even his hair was scorched, so maybe it just got so hot that even his bones disintegrated to dust. And he was by the ladder, which means that this creature was banished until he opened it. Or looked and summoned it, whatever.
Maybe the other guy used his dying breath to
banish it again.
banish it again. Yeah.
Maybe he managed to get light in somehow. Because it
almost sounded like it was already in the room, like in the building. Like he heard noises up above. But I don't know if that's because he summoned it or because it was already there.
he didn't.
That's true. He may not have summoned it, but without a person to go after, it just stayed there in the tower.
Blake, whatever his name was, he didn't hear noises up above until after he had looked into the trapezohedron, which is a new word to me.
Like instead of summoning it, he caused a connection with it already there, because the previous connection had died. So maybe it was a reconnection or something.
Yeah. I mean, if it couldn't get out of the church, like it could be summoned there, but if it couldn't get out previously at any point, like if it had been trapped there for however long and lights were more reliable or whatever, which definitely sounds like a thing that lights would have been more reliable in like 1895 than they were in 1935. But if for some reason, it was like perpetually bright for some reason or other, they were really good at keeping candles lit all around, whatever, and it couldn't get out, maybe it eventually gave up and left if it was capable of doing that. But it's also like he talks about how dim everything was and blackened and everything, but it doesn't sound like it was completely dark until when they went back later and found like the things that had been like redone darkening things and using the pew cushions and whatever. Am I wrong? I could be.
That's what I got. Like it was almost like he took advantage of the blackout to make it darker.
Yeah.
So that he could thrive around the entire church rather than just in the steeple.
Well, I'm just wondering if maybe it was gone again, or maybe it was gone again at any given time that it was summoned. I mean, there were all those sacrifices, essentially, the people disappearing. If the people like worshiping it or whatever they were doing, if they kept re-summoning it, maybe each time that it actually fed on someone, it disappeared and had to be summoned back. So if the reporter had summoned it and then it fed on him, then it would be reasonable that it would have disappeared. The only thing is, then why was he charred and like eaten away by acid at parts, and Blake was just frozen, staring as though he'd been electrocuted?
Because he couldn't stay there very long because there was people. He was outside. Remember, he came to Blake's study. Like he wasn't in the church. He was in the study.
True. And it was
And
getting
it was less
closer to
than
morning.
5 minutes. It was less than 5 minutes after he left that electricity was back.
True. Good memories. Totally forgot about that part.
So he didn't have as long with Blake
Yeah,
to do
you're
what
right.
he wanted.
You
He
are
just had
right.
enough to kill him.
And he was probably angry with Blake for getting away and not coming back
And
despite
taking
all
so
the
long.
calling.
Poor
So
guy's stuck in Artemis and he just wants to go home.
like,
Or-
guys, I'm home.
Why did you summon me if you won't let me eat?
So what I
Called
like
me to
about this is
dinner.
I do like that they did the story writing at the end, like his reading like excerpts of his diary.
Yeah.
I gotta find it now. It reminded me a lot of the last book because again, at the end, it's like he's becoming one with the character. He's trying to define what is him and what is the creature. And then they did that a lot in the previous book. What was it? The Shadow over Innsmouth. He's like, I can hear them calling me. I want to kill myself. And he's like, no, I can't kill myself. I am one of them. I will take my cousin to go live with them. I'm just like, okay, I think that's a theme.
Uh-huh. Well, and I mean, throughout this entire book, is we eventually realized that we were reading like older stories to newer stories. He definitely went through, like a painter who has their blue period and their red period and whatever, and he definitely went through a suicide caused by eldritch darkness period and a I think this latter portion is more I'm joining them, and he went through a lot of it's in the depths of the sea, and then he went through a stretch of JK, it's all coming from outer space, and then these last few, it's like it's here, but it came from space, but it's hiding in the depths of the sea. Let's just put it all together.
All right, we only have a few more minutes left, but
We do.
I want to ask a question because we're next session we're reading Little Women, right?
Yes, and that is actually what I was going to tell you about.
So I just wanted I had a question for you guys. What is one of your favorite stories of the Cthulhu that we read?
Oh boy. I mean, I really like this last one, honestly. I'm like,
I have to. Huh?
I'm reading the table of contents to refresh my memory. But yeah, continue what you were saying.
The one that stuck with me the most has to be for intenseness and I really enjoyed is the Rats in the Walls.
I did like that one.
That was one of my favorites of his stories. The Rats in the Walls.
I think probably The Whisperer in Darkness.
That was a good one.
Although the
too.
Haunter of the Dark was definitely a really good one also.
Yes. The
think
one
I
we just
really
read,
liked-
yes.
One that's I can't remember the name of, but one of the earlier ones that I really liked was the one about the guy who lived in the castle underground who was actually a monster.
Mm.
So he crawled his way up. He'd been in silence forever.
The Outsider.
The Outsider, yeah.
That was a good
That was
one.
a good one.
The Statement of Randolph Carter. That was a good one.
It's almost like Lovecraft was a good writer or something.
Almost.
It's like people are still reading his stories for a reason. So, speaking of Little Women, I was looking at the lengths of the chapters today, and I think we're going to, for simplicity's sake, instead of going through figuring out how many pages each time, I think the chapters are approximately equalish enough in length to plan on doing 2 chapters for each session.
Okay.
So for the first session, we'll do the first 2 chapters, which means 2 weeks from now, Happy Thanksgiving and Merry Christmas.
Oh,
Yay!
gee. As the impending holidays approach.
Can we get to
Approach,
Halloween
but
first, please?
what?
But before Christmas, can we get to Halloween?
No.
No.
We have just done Halloween all year.
That's
I
right.
keep doing Halloween.
Half a year we have spent doing Halloween. Let's
Black
be
and orange.
actually
okay?
over half a year.
Over half a
Yeah.
year.
Black and orange. Got black and purple too.
Yep.
Halloween. I
Monday.
got 4 bracelets done today. Look at me go.
I got part of what I was working on done, but not printed.
I had these all chained and put together in groups, so I braided those. And I chained most of these together. And I started braiding one. So I was somewhat productive.
So
Yeah.
I am going to put up some things on my Pixie Elegance Facebook page about what we're planning for Little Women and everything. So, excuse me. So if anybody is knows somebody who might be interested in reading along with us, there will be something there, hopefully within the next day or 2, that you can share to them. But do definitely let people know that it'll be happening. And I'm going to try to get a few other things done. I was talking to a couple people, as neither Erika nor Becca are going to be able to join us anymore, at least for the foreseeable future, because life just got too busy and or scheduling conflicts to be able to join us. So I do have a couple of other people who may be joining us. I haven't gotten confirmation from either of them, and I have one friend who is, due to time zone and her work schedule, not able to join us, but she's going to read along and send me her thoughts ahead of time. So
Ooh,
as we're going through, I will have comments from Erika, but not the Erika that has been here, different Erika.
Oh, another Erika. Nice. I don't know what else to refer as besides.
Erika that Erika introduced me to.
Right.
So when we're reading and I say I have comments from Erika, probably for the first few times I'll be like, not Erika Heins who used to be here, different Erika. But of course, you know, anybody else who wants to be reading along, who's able to join us for the live stream, can always comment in the chat, and we'll appropriateness levels and amounts of comments, depending, potentially be reading those comments as well in the stream. So before I actually fall asleep sitting here, I'm gonna go.
All right.
All right.